Good evening, Council. We're going to call our special council meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, April the 10th, 2024. Welcome. Number 2 is our declaration of pecuniary interest. Any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest before us tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on. Number 3 is our approval of the agenda. We have a motion that the agenda of the special council meeting for April the 10th, 2024 be approved as presented. Moved by Councilor Roux, seconded by Councilor Waters. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Council, you've got the information package for you for the matters before us. Before I read the motion, did any member want to go into a closed session to discuss these, or do you have the information and you have the questions? Anybody need to go closed to ask questions? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, so we won't be going into closed, so we'll just move on to number 5 and just read the motion that's before us. Just for clarity. Okay. So Council, we'll move on to number 5, reports from an in-camera meeting. The first one's 5.1, a memo from the Director of Human Resources regarding the Penetanguishene Volunteer Firefighter Agreement. So we'll move forward as per the recommendations for the agreement. We'll look for a mover. Councillor Waters, seconder. Councillor Vadabonker. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Second item is regarding a memo from the Director of Public Works regarding Fuller Avenue pole anchor easement expropriation. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Marcia, seconded by Councillor Roux. Further comments? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. 6, our question period from the medium public regarding this meeting. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll look for an adjournment at 6:31 p.m. by Councillor Marcia, seconded by Councillor Darash. All in favor? And opposed? Thank you. We'll be back at 7 o'clock for our council meeting. Good evening, Council. Welcome, everyone, to our Council meeting for Wednesday, April 10, 2024. We're going to call our meeting to order at 7:01. Thank you, everyone, for attending here this evening. We're going to start by inviting Chief Renaud to our podium for public safety announcement.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, people in attendance. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. Should you require the washrooms are just located on the outside of council chambers to the right down the hall. Town hall is protected by a single source fire alarm system. Should the fire alarms go off, please exit the building either through the rear or the side entrance, and then we'll make our way down and into the parking lot next to the church. In the event of a medical emergency, please dial 911. The address here is number 10 Robert Street West, Penetanguishene. And just as a reminder, we do have a public access defibrillator just outside of town council. Thank you. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, et bienvenue à la ville de Penetanguishene et la salle de conseil. Si vous avez besoin des chambres de bain, veuillez sortir à l'arrière et à votre droite dans le corridor. Les chambres de bain sont juste à votre droite. La salle de conseil est protégée d'un système d'alarme, un stage. Si l'alarme sonne, veuillez quitter l'édifice par la porte à l'arrière ou de côté et on se rejoint dans le stationnement de l'église. S'il y a un problème médical, veuillez signaler le 911. L'adresse ici à la salle de conseil numéro 10 rue Robert-Ouest à Penetanguishene et on a un défibrillateur public juste à la sortie ici à votre droite. Merci, bon conseil. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Renaud. For those that would like to communicate and bring in forward to council tonight, we do that during open forum. I'd ask you to go to Madam Clerk and you can register for that. So if you're here for that purpose, just make your way to the clerk. Moving on with our land acknowledgement, Penetanguishene respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional treaty territory of the Anishinaabe people and their ancestors, now known as the Williams Treaties First Nations territory. This includes Chippewa Tri-Council comprised of Bosley First Nation, Rama First Nation, and the Georgina Island First Nation, Alderville, Curve Lake, Hiawatha, and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations. Also once home of the Huron-Wendat, and more recently the historic settlement of the Métis, home to many Indigenous peoples. Penetanguishene is proud of its Indigenous name, and more importantly, that for thousands of years it has been and will continue to be an important homeland and gathering place for Indigenous people. We recognize that we are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters and are responsible to ensure that our Mother the Earth is here for future generations. Moving on, number 3 is our welcome council commitment. So again, thank you for being here tonight. I just want to make everyone know we are live streaming this online and we're recording it for future purpose. So you are on camera. Council, I'm going to ask if we can stand, and I'm going to ask Councillor Vadabonker if you can lead us off in the council commitment, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council commitment for the town of Penetanguishene. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed on Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here assist us in promoting good government. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all and to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabonker. Councillor DeRush.
Nous sommes reconnaissants des nombreuses grâces accordées à Penetanguishene et à ses citoyens dont la liberté, les possibilités et la paix dont nous jouissons. Que nous soyons des intendants dignes de tout ce qui nous a été confié. Nous demandons que toutes les personnes présentes et celles qui n'ont pas pu se présenter nous aident à promouvoir une bonne gouvernance. Que nos décisions, à titre de membres du Conseil, soient éclairées et que nous soyons tous renforcés à prendre conscience de nos devoirs et responsabilités. Que l'on nous accorde la sagesse, les connaissances, la volonté et la compréhension qui nous permettront de préserver la bonne fortune de la ville au bénéfice de tous, ainsi que de faire de bonnes lois et prendre de sages décisions. Merci de votre présence.
Thank you, Councillor DeRush. Council, moving on to number 4 is our approval of the agenda. We have a motion that the agenda of the regular council meeting for April the 10th, 2024 be approved as presented. I look for mover, Councillor Marchand, seconder, Deputy Mayor LaRose. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. 5 is declaration of pecuniary interest. Do any members of council have a declaration of pecuniary interest before us tonight? Seeing none, if you're presented with that at the time, please bring that forward. Moving on to 6 is our open forum. Again, this is an opportunity for members of public to come forward to council with anything that's on your mind that you'd like to bring to council. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody registered for open forum this evening?
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have one member named Connie Stewart of Robert Street West looking to speak regarding traffic calming. Just as well, we do have other members in attendance today that are interested in speaking during the CIP public meeting. So I've advised them that they will be given an opportunity to do that at that time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. During open forum, we limit to 2 minutes and the discussions towards council. So I'll ask that Ms. Stewart, thank you for being here tonight. We welcome you here. And again, it's 2 minutes if you can direct it to council.
Our town is considering an automated speed enforcement trial. We are also designating Robert Street West from Owen all the way to LaFontaine Road, Fox Street from Church all the way to Broad Street, Church from Fox all the way to Navy Lane. Note that traffic violation fines double in these zones. This service uses cameras and speed measurement devices that detect and capture images of vehicles. And if caught driving over the limit, an image of the vehicle is automatically captured. This image will be received by offenses officers, and within 30 days, a ticket will be issued to the owner of the car, the plate owner, not the driver. Fees collected will be distributed to the province or town, and the service fee will be paid to the provider. This is not the police presence that we were promised by the OPP. I am sure many of us have been in this situation, but we had the opportunity of a discussion with an officer of the law. Will residents be well informed re this trial and how it works? Will we be well informed re community safety zones? Will we have the opportunity to say no to this service after the trial if it doesn't suit our town? There is no human contact with automated speed enforcement. This is artificial intelligence tracking, tracing, personal information gathering, and there are consequences. Consequences over loss of privacy, government overreach to establish mass surveillance of vehicles moved, and also of movement of the vehicle's owner. Any agency or person with access to data from traffic cameras can track the movement of vehicles for any purpose. This is not what we were promised. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening. Madam Clerk, do you have anyone else? No? Okay. Thank you. We're going to move on to number 7, a statement by members, an opportunity for council to share with the community the work that you're doing. Tonight, let's start with Councillor DeRush.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start by saying that a few weeks ago, the Wellbeing and Accessibility Committee had their bi-monthly meeting. And as usual, committee members arrived prepared and they worked really hard to get through their various items on the agenda. This committee, as you know, is tasked with enhancing the health and quality of life for Penetanguishene residents through a wide range of innovative, inclusive, and accessible events, programs, and infrastructure. I want to send out a big shout out to these remarkable people who freely give of their time to make our community the best it can be. And they really do put in their time, and they're very enthusiastic. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to work with these great individuals. So as a committee, we do meet every couple of months, and I look forward to it because they do bring incredible ideas that make Penetanguishene the best place to live and play. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor DeRush. Deputy Mayor LaRose.
Thank you, Your Worship. It was a very quiet last 2 or 3 weeks, which I'm happy to report. We had our regular section meetings. We had our airport meeting. We've had library meetings, doing our stuff, going around the town, looking at our new projects that are getting ready now that the snow is melting and the better weather's coming. But other than that, it's been nice. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Veta-Bunker.
Thank you, Worship. Similar to the Deputy Mayor, it was very quiet over the last 3 weeks, and other than our regular meetings, that's been it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Veta-Bunker. Councillor Marchand.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple updates for myself. We had a Trails Committee meeting last week, and we did want to share that we will be opening quite an extensive portion of the trail. The Genaraska hiking trail is going to officially be open from Tay all the way to Tiny Township. This has been 10 years in the making, and so it's really exciting that this will now tie that piece that has been not tied together in terms of officially part of that trail system. There is an official ribbon cutting ceremony that's going to happen this weekend. It's on Saturday. It's an 18-kilometer hike, so anybody who's interested in walking the trail, the ribbon cutting will take place in Tay Township by the Wymarsh. People will be bused from there to the top of the trail and then walk back to the Tay Trail system where it's being opened. So if anyone's up for 18K, any members of council, if you want to join me Saturday morning, that would be really great. And so really great work by the Trails Committee. We were really excited to be able to share that. In addition, on Friday night, just of last weekend, as the representative for the SSCA Severn Sound Environmental Association, our annual Environmental Champion Awards and partnership reception took place in Elmville. The afternoon had a really wonderful guest speaker. We had really great attendance and participation. And then in the evening, it was really wonderful to be able to be there and hear Mr. John Hartman, local resident from LaFontaine, talk about his art and just really the changing landscape. But most importantly, we got to honor one of our employees, Roy Patnode from the Parks and Recreation Department, received an award for sustainability and stewardship champion this year. So was really proud to be able to be there and celebrate that award for Roy. He's done a lot of really great work at the waterfront, specifically around Phragmite and really looking at invasive species, putting in a lot of his own time and overseeing volunteers. So was really great to see our Director of Parks and Recreation and our CAO was there as well. And so a really great reception, and just really want to highlight the work that Roy did and well-deserved celebration, and did a great job representing the town of Penetanguishene. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Councillor Marshall. Councillor Leroux.
Thank you, Your Worship. As council rep and board member of the Penetanguishene Centennial Museum and Archives, I'd just like to signal the many events that occurred at our museum just this past year, namely Winterama, the March Break, the Easter Extravaganza, the Paint the Afternoon Away, also with upcoming events such as the Tea and Tarts, the Historical Walks, Canada Day. And I also bring up the fact that the month of May is Museum Month, and I'm sure that our staff at the museum are probably preparing some special activities at the museum to commemorate this wonderful month of May as Museum Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leroux. Councillor Waters.
Thank you. Like everybody else, it wasn't that busy of a month, so I had 2 regular meetings. I did go to the event last Friday for Severn Sound, and it was nice to see that Roy got his proper recognition for what he's been doing. And other than that, it's just been in-person conversations mostly.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. CEO Elise.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just echo Councillor Waters and Councillor Marchand's sentiments with respect to Roy. A big congratulations to him and his hard work. And the second piece I would just add is that staff are working on a couple of initiatives, namely the Provincial Day of Action on Litter, which is Provincial Day, I believe it's 5th annual, May 14th, as well as some initiatives around Earth Day, which is in a couple of weeks. So there'll be more information to follow, and certainly working with some community groups in that respect. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, CEO Elise. My last couple weeks was a little busier than normal. I was here at Town Hall, I think 3 times last week. I think Emily made notice about that. So I just want to start by thanking council. I think we've done a lot of work with our open forum and how we're engaging public. The last few months, we've had some items of community interest, and we've had a lot of people participate. After our last meeting last month, I had a couple phone calls where people actually reached out saying thank you for enabling the process, doing the process, and they just wanted to acknowledge that they felt that they were heard, and it didn't matter what side of the equation they're on, that they just appreciate the process. So thank you to you for doing the good work that you're doing. I think Deputy Mayor and I get to converse with our friends at the county, and I don't think we have the collegial relationship that we share here. So thank you to you. And I know I can pass it on from the sentiments that people shared. In the last month, I had a couple of meetings with the Aspiring Geopark, the UNESCO Geopark, and some work that they're doing and some partnerships they're doing with community partners. So it's good to see the work they're doing from the collaborations on that front. We've communicated in the past few months about the work being done with our new OPP detachment board. In the last 2 weeks, the CEO led all of our municipal partners, where the mayors and CEOs met to look at all of our call for applicants. And we really looked at that from a skills matrix on what does the best application look like across the detachment board. So that was a good process to be part of. And I want to thank Jeff and Emily for their work on pulling that together. I also participate in some strategic planning with the Canadian Museum of Water and their work that they've done dovetailing inside the geopark. So it was a good process to be part of. And again, just some community collaboration specifically around the recreation conversation we've been having, about the library conversation. So just clarifying that from the community's perspective. So from a community perspective, this is kind of the work that council is doing on your behalf. And we just want to report that to you. Moving on to Brights, our proclamations. We have one this evening, a proclamation from MS Canada. Council, before I read out the proclamation, any comments or questions? Okay. So whereas multiple sclerosis is a chronic, often disabling neurological disease affecting an estimated 1 in 400 Canadians and approximately 90,000 across the country. And whereas multiple sclerosis symptoms vary widely and may lead to problems with numbness, coordination, vision, and speech, as well as extreme fatigue and even paralysis. And whereas there is no known cause of, prevention of, or cure for multiple sclerosis, and whereas MS Canada is the only national organization in Canada that supports both MS research and services for people with MS and their families. And whereas annual fundraising events such as the MS Walk, MS Bike, and A&W Canada's Burgers to Beat MS campaign support programs to enhance the lives of people affected by multiple sclerosis and their families and support MS research in Canada. And whereas since 1948, MS Canada has contributed over $200 million towards MS research and is grateful for the dedication and commitment of its supporters and volunteers that has made this possible. And whereas together we will find ways to connect and empower the MS community to create positive change and see a world free of multiple sclerosis. Now, therefore, I, Douglas Ross, a mayor of the town of Penetanguishene of the province of Ontario, Canada, do hereby proclaim this month of May 2024 to be MS Awareness Month for Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Marchand, seconder. Councillor Waters. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Number 9 is a public meeting. The town is considering a community improvement plan under Section 28 of the Planning Act. This is a public meeting to obtain feedback on the proposed affordable and sustainable community improvement plan. The proposed community improvement plan seeks to provide municipal financial incentives for the construction or renovation of affordable and sustainable dwelling units. To council, the purpose of this public meeting is to provide an opportunity for the public to provide comments. The purpose of this public meeting is not to engage in a debate regarding the merits of the proposal, nor is it intended to be a question and answer session. There's an opportunity later in this meeting to ask questions on the proposals after the public meeting has concluded. Andrea, I'm going to ask if you can confirm a notification for this public meeting, as well if there's been any correspondences received, and if you can outline the proposal for us, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Members of Council, I do confirm that notice of tonight's public meeting was given on March 14th. It was provided in the Springwater News as well as on our website, and those who have asked for to be updated with this project were also contacted, making them aware of the presentation tonight. So with that, I'll probably turn it over to Leah, who's going to do the presentation to introduce the proposed community improvement plan to council and the public tonight.
Thank you, Andrea. Good, great. Thanks, everyone. For those who were at the Committee of the Whole in February, you may recognize this presentation overall. But this is the live version, so I'm happy to be here with you in person. And so why is the town doing this CIP? The purpose is to facilitate and encourage the development of both affordable and sustainable housing. And this meets goals in both the strategic plan as well as the climate change action plan, which have specific targets for both. And so at the beginning of this project, we looked at the needs around housing in the town. We have a full background report that is available through the town website if you're interested in going through all of the numbers. But really the summary is that both for purchase price and for rental prices, they're much higher than what the average household in town can afford, is really the end of the day. And so where are we with the process? As I said, we did a lengthy background analysis. We did engagement through speaking with stakeholders, as well as we held an open house, 2 open houses, an afternoon and evening session in town. And we're here with the draft of the plan today for feedback from the public. And then following this, we'll be finalizing the plan and bring it back through, I believe, committee and then council in the spring, summer. So the proposed programs that we bring to you, the first is a tax increment grant program. So essentially this would reduce the amount of increased property taxes that a development would see if they were providing at least 5 affordable housing units. And so for the first 11 years of the project, the grant would be 100% of the increase in taxes. So they would still be paying what they were paying prior to the development for the first 11 years. And that timeline is in relation to CMHC funding programs. I can explain more if there's questions, but essentially that allows for the project to receive greater financing. And then it's phased in over the next 4 years with full property taxes in year 16. The next is a planning and building permit fee program. And so 100% of the fees payable for eligible projects for affordable housing developments would not pay municipal planning and building permit fees. And I will note that these fees would be covered through money from the reserve fund put aside for the CIP. So the departments would still receive those funds, but the applicant themselves wouldn't pay. So it would reduce the burden on the affordable housing projects. The next is a renovation program for affordable rental housing. This is specifically for more than 5 units. The county has a program for less than 5 units. So this would be to improve the accessibility or address critical repairs for existing rental housing with the requirement to keep them affordable. And then the home energy program. And so this is really focusing on the sustainability aspect of the CIP. And it's looking for repairs and upgrades for energy efficiencies for homes of up to 25,000. And it's intended to be a grant for households that are at or below the median income, and then would be a loan program for those above the median income, repayable to the town over a certain number of years. And it would be done through energy assessments that determine what upgrades are needed and then that would be provided. And then another is the feasibility study program. So up to 50% of costs, up to $10,000 of funding would be available for projects who are looking into the feasibility of developing affordable housing or projects. And they would be limited to a maximum of 5 per period. But yeah. Yep. Next. And then the additional dwelling unit program. So this would be a maximum for affordable additional dwelling units of 10,000 per unit, up to 20,000 per property, and be looking at either the renovation of existing units or the additional dwelling unit and detached accessory dwelling, like laneway or garden suite. And then there would also be a modified program for additional units that would not meet the affordability definition of a lower amount. And then finally, a surplus land program, which is to identify and prioritize municipal lands for the development of affordable housing. And then for lands where it's determined that residential development isn't feasible, to prioritize the sale of those lands to fund the reserve fund that I mentioned earlier, to fund other CIP programs. And this would work in concert with the county's programs around funding for affordable housing as well. So those are the programs. A note to respond to a question from committee around stacking of funding. So generally speaking, programs have been designed to allow for the layering or stacking of programs. Obviously, we don't want the town to be the only ones, providing funding for affordable housing. It's all levels of government. And so the reason that you'll see 5 units mentioned is because that's the minimum number that CMHC requires for their programs. And then also there's the Federation of Canadian Municipality Green Municipal Fund, which offers additional funding for nonprofit applicants and municipal applicants. The additional dwelling unit program that I mentioned is meant to be used in combination. Simcoe County does have a program, but they've noted that they think it would be more successful if there was more funding to kind of incentivize the affordability portion. And so the program we're proposing is meant to stack with that to sort of further incentivize the affordability there. And programs within the CIP are stackable on each other as applicable. The only thing that's not stackable is the renovation program, which is similar to an existing program in the downtown CIP. And so that one is essentially a replacement of that. You wouldn't be able to access both programs, but otherwise you would. And so overall, the CIP area is the whole municipal area with 2 sub areas, the urban area and the rural area. Certain programs are eligible in the entire area and certain just in the urban area. I have a chart if there are questions about that. Ignore the first bullet, but as I mentioned, next steps are once feedback is received tonight, the final CIP will be prepared and presented to council and committee in the spring and summer for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask anybody in the audience if you wish to make any comments on this proposal. If you do, I'm going to ask you to come to the podium. I'm going to ask you to state your name and address for the record. Do any members wish to make comment on this CIP application tonight? Yeah, I'll make your way to the podium, please.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Charlebois. I work at Waypoint. I'm the Director of Access and Flow. My address is 5 Ramblewood Drive in Barrie. I noticed that there seems to be a gap in the CIP when we look at supportive housing, looking at units that support the ADLs or daily living requirements of people that have mental illness, disability, or cognitive or intellectual disabilities, especially behavioral. We know that housing is a human right, and I'm just wondering if that will be addressed at all within your CIP or considered.
Thank you for your comment. That'll be noted by the director and included future report. Do any other members have any comments regarding our CIP? And do anyone else wish to make any comment on this public meeting? Sarah, do we have anyone online that wants to participate? Okay. Okay, if there's no further comments, I want to thank everyone for attending and participating in this public meeting. We're going to close the public meeting. The matter will be discussed under matters for consideration by council here tonight. And like the presenter acknowledges, will come forward at our future meetings. Moving on, number 10 is our delegations and presentations. We have one this evening. It's a presentation from the Lumex Group regarding our community risk assessment. I believe they're connecting virtually this evening. So welcome. And like all of our delegations, we do have a time at 10 minutes. So we'll welcome you here this evening, and the floor is yours. I'm sorry, we're not getting any audio.
Grace, would you mind trying again to speak, please? Apologies, we just don't hear it on our end. If you just give us a moment.
Madam Clerk, are you comfortable if we continue proceeding on the agenda, and when we get the technology figured out, we'll proceed at that time?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Council, you okay with that? Okay, we're going to move on to number 11, our adoption minutes not already confirmed. I have a motion that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. Special council for March 13, 2024. Council March 13, 2024. I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Veta-Boncour, seconded by Councillor Leroux. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Number 12 is our consent agenda. We do not have anything on our consent agenda for this evening. Number 13 is matters for consideration. A is regarding the background of the public meeting on the draft Affordable and Sustainable Community Improvement Plan, PL 2024-17. The motion is that the report be received for information and feedback, and that staff be directed to prepare a report for the next committee of the whole meeting to address any comments received at the public meeting respecting the draft community improvement plan dated January 2024. I'm going to look for a mover. Someone? Councillor Waters, seconded by Deputy Mayor LaRose. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. And just for members of the public, so the public meeting we just had, our director is going to take that away next month. They'll come back through committee of the whole. Council will look at those recommendations, make any adjustments. The following month, council will then have an opportunity to adopt it, amend it, do what we do. But it'll come back at committee of the whole next month. 13B is our Youth Endowment Fund, CL 2024-02. Motion that the council approve the recommendation from the Wellbeing Accessibility Committee for the 2024 recipient of the town's Youth Endowment Fund, and the council provide delegated authority to the Wellbeing Accessibility Committee to administer the town's Youth Endowment Fund moving forward while adhering to bylaw 2011-08. A mover, Councillor DeRush. Seconder, Councillor Marchand. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. C is a memo from the CEO regarding the South Georgian Bay OPP Detachment Board. Before I read this motion, do any members of council have comments or questions? Seeing none. So it's a memo from the CEO regarding the South Georgian Bay OPP Detachment Board selection and appointment for the CEO 2024-03. That council approved the following recommended appointments as Southern Georgian Bay OPP Detachment Board. Doug Taylor, our community representative. Mayor Doug Ross, our council representative. I'll look for a mover. Councillor DeRush, seconded by Councillor Veta-Boncour. Comments or questions? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. D, Central North Correctional Center policing cost request for support. Whereas the Central North Correction Center, a provincially operated institution, opened its doors in the town of Penetanguishene in 2001. And whereas since inception, a commitment was made by the province to reimburse the town for policing costs associated with the facility. And whereas in 2020, the Ministry of the Solicitor General canceled the agreement for the recovery of policing costs for all correctional institutions. And whereas, as a result of the agreement cancellation for policing costs, the residents and businesses of the town of Penetanguishene have borne the financial shortfall through a significant tax levy increase. And whereas policing costs at a provincial facility are the single and sole responsibility of the province of Ontario and not to be funded by the host municipality. Now, therefore, the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene seeks the support of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the County of Simcoe, neighboring municipalities, and other municipalities who are hosts of provincial facilities in seeking fair, equitable, and reasonable treatment to the residents and businesses of host municipalities to provincial facilities. I'm going to look for a mover. Councillor Roux, seconded by Councillor Vadabunker. Comments or questions? Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to see this motion on our agenda for this evening. Hopefully it'll gain some traction and get the attention of the province if we get all the communities that have provincial facilities supporting us. I always try to be optimistic in these types of things, so I'm hopeful that we'll see a positive outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabunker. Any further comments or questions by council? I'll thank our CO and staff for preparing this. I know we've talked about this over the last several months about how we're going to continue the dialogue. So thank you for bringing this forward. I'll echo the comments that Councillor Vadabunker brought forward. I know Councillor Roux, you brought up that it's been a long battle. We've been working for some time. So thank you for moving this tonight. We have the motion before us. Council, no further comments? We're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Okay, Council, we're going to move on to number 14, our presentation consideration of the reports from Committee of the Whole. We're going to start off with our Planning and Development Services section. I'm going to ask Councillor Vadabunker if you can start us off.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the March 13th Planning and Community Development section highlights are as follows. Section dealt with 2 consent items and considered 5 reports from staff, including the alternative notice policy, and that was is being recommended for approval. Proposed pilot for all-terrain vehicles on municipal roads, and it's recommended that the draft all-terrain vehicles bylaw be released for public comment. Amendments to the open air burning bylaw, and those are being recommended for approval. And amendment to the environmentally inspired mowing policy for no mow made is being recommended for approval. Finally, a protocol to establish a telecommunications facility in the town of Penetanguishene recommended that the Canadian Radio Communications Information Notice Service be invited to a future council meeting to share information on their service for satisfying Industry Canada's requirements for consultation with land use planning authorities. There was one referral item, Your Worship. We heard a presentation earlier in the evening on March 13th from Huronia Community Foundation, and that their presentation dealing with affordable housing was referred back to staff for a report. Your Worship, members of council, that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Councillor Vadabunker. We have a motion that the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report relating to Planning and Development Services section be approved. It's moved by Councillor Vadabunker. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Roux. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Councillor Marchand, if you can help us out with the Transportation Environmental Services section report, please.
Okay, so for Committee of the Whole for Transportation and Environmental Services from last month, we had two consent agenda items. One was the Drinking Water Quality Management System meeting minutes from December of 2023. The second item was the Drinking Water Quality Management System annual report. Those were both consent agenda items. We had two matters for consideration. The first one was, there was two of them, Housing Enabling Water System Fund project. That was a project application for our water system. So that was approved. And the second was the calming control trial and traffic calming policy to move forward with an MOU with the town of Newmarket for cameras for speed enforcement and identifying 3 new community safety zones in that particular report. And the final, we had one referral item, which was a calming measure to come back to council with regards to roads without sidewalks.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. We have a recommendation contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Transportation Environmental Services section be approved. A mover, Councillor Marchand, and seconded by Councillor. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Waters, if you can bring forward the Recreation Community Services section report, please.
Last month, the Recreation Community Service received 3 new consent agenda items, and they were the meeting minutes for the Museum and Heritage Advisory Committee and the meeting minutes for the Penetanguishene Public Library, which was January 29th, 2024. And there was also a memo from the Director of Recreation and Community Services regarding master plan funding. And there were no matters for consideration.
Thank you very much, Councillor Waters. I have a motion the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Recreation and Community Services section be approved. Moved by Councillor Waters. I'll look for a seconder. Deputy Mayor LaRose. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor Rush, the Finance and Corporate Service section report, please.
Certainly. So Finance and Corporate Services had 2 items under the consent agenda. The first was Police Services Board meeting minutes from December 4th, 2023 and January 29th, 2024. The second was the 2023 annual remuneration report for council, boards and committees. There were 2 matters for consideration. The first item was the respect in the workplace policy. It was recommended that the required amendments to the policy be approved as presented. The second item was the non-resident user fee review. It was recommended that staff send correspondence to our municipal counterparts to engage in dialogue regarding non-resident fees, that a public consultation be hosted and feedback be provided to council, that an amended fees and charges bylaw be presented, including a line-by-line staff recommendation of non-resident user rates, and finally that a residents first approach be applied. On behalf of the section, I ask that council approve the recommendations as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. I have a motion that the recommendations contained with the Committee of the Whole report related to Finance and Corporate Services section be approved. I'll look for a mover. Deputy Mayor LaRose, seconder. Councillor Rush, comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. For members of the public, tonight we were going to have a presentation about our community risk assessment. That was what we moved on a little while ago, item 10A. We're having some technology issues. They will not be presenting tonight. Madam Clerk, I'm sure you'll reach out. We'll look at bringing that forward at a future time. So council, that item's deferred for a future meeting. 15 is motions of which notice has previously been given. We have none. 16 is notice of motion. Any members of council have a notice of motion? Seeing none, we're going to move on to consideration bylaws. Before I read them, do any members of council wish to pull any for further comment or discussion? Okay, seeing none. That the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduce the following bylaws: 2014-14 regarding Volunteer Firefighter Association Agreement, 2014-15 being a bylaw to appoint C. Smith and Emma Collins Property Standards Officer.
Sorry to interrupt. It's 2024, 14. There just might be a typo there.
Oh, my apologies. What the clerk said, Madam Clerk said, bylaw 2024 Madam Clerk, am I on 15 or 16 now? 16? 2024-16. Being a bylaw to appoint C. Smith and Emma McClellan as municipal bylaw enforcement officers, and bylaw 2024-17 being a bylaw regarding our weed inspector appointment bylaw. And that the bylaws be read a first time, deemed to be read a second time, a third time, and carried. I'll look for a mover, please. Deputy Mayor LaRue, seconder. Councillor LaRue, comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. 18 is our County of Simcoe update. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. We had a number of regular meetings. At our last county council meeting, we had one which I think is of great interest for us. We did our year-end financial report, and out of approximate $700 million budget, we came in just over $100,000 to the good. So from our budgeted to what we ended up doing was, I believe it was 0.001. So they were very, very happy. Everybody was kind of nice to see that it all worked out and came in on budget. So I just wanted to point that out. The other thing I wanted to mention tonight was to inform the public that the county bursary program that is up and running now, it offers 21 $3,000 bursaries to Simcoe County residents, basically students that are going to be attending college or university within the country. The nice part about it is because we are one of the members of the 16 municipalities, we are guaranteed that one of our residents will get one of these bursaries if they apply. So it's kind of nice that they share it all the way around the county. So if there's any students out there that are going to post-secondary school coming up, it would be a good time to apply for that. And you can do that at simcoe.ca/student bursary. So if you know anybody that's looking for, at least we'll have one out of our town at a minimum of $3,000, it should help the cause. And that's it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. For our members of the public, the town of Penetanguishene is one member of the County of Simcoe of the 60 municipalities. So every month, the Deputy Mayor shows the good work we're doing at the county. So thank you for bringing that forward. I think that's great leadership. And thanks to staff. You'll notice on our agenda this month, Council, we now include our Council highlights from the County of Simcoe for the public's use. So thanks for including that in our agenda, Madam Clerk. So Council, now we'll look at bringing those forward as received for information. So I do have a motion that the County of Simcoe County Council highlights from March 26, 2024, March 12, 2024 be received for information. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Vatabankar, seconded by Councillor Drush. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Number 19 is our announcements and inquiries. Do any members of council have any announcements or inquiries? Councillor Drush.
Thank you very much. I have a few announcements. The first is regarding a cycle tourism destination development workshop on Friday, April 26th from 10 to 12 noon. Ontario by Bike, Tourism Simcoe County, Penetanguishene, Midland, Tiny and Tay are hosting an in-person workshop to learn more about the growing cycle tourism market in Ontario and how welcoming cyclists is good for business. The workshop is open to everyone and is free to participate, but it is of particular interest, of course, to tourism professionals. So if you want to check it out a little more, check our website. The second announcement is regarding the upcoming Creative Communities Culture Conference. It is being held on Friday, April 19th at the Midland Cultural Center. It starts at 9 and runs until 4. The theme this year is more than entertainment, the value of arts and culture. And again, for more information on either of these events, please go to our website. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drush. Any other announcements and inquiries by council? COLs, any announcements or inquiries from your limbs? I have a couple questions I'll direct to our CEO. Tonight on our Committee of the Whole reports, it was adopted by council. We had two came forward. One was regarding the pilot for the ATV. I'm just wondering if you can help guide council and the community. What would that look like? What can we expect from a public consultation? What is that going to look like? And the second one would be regarding the speed enforcement. What would be next steps that we could expect from a council perspective as well? If you don't mind sharing that just from a public information sharing, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did have a conversation with our Director of Planning this afternoon around the consultation plan. And certainly with respect to the ATV pilot project, and I'll ask Andrea to weigh in if I missed something here. We are planning on releasing a public survey within the next couple of weeks, as well as hosting some open houses for the community to come and participate in, both an afternoon and an evening session towards the beginning of May, with the intent that we'll be coming to COW or Committee of the Whole in June with a report around summarizing that feedback that we received. In addition, as the report states, it will be available on connectpenetangwisheen.ca, which will allow residents to provide feedback directly through that venue as well. So that's kind of the consultation plan. I'll just look to our Director of Planning and Community Development if there's anything I've missed, and I think she's saying that covers it. So I appreciate the conversation, Andrea. As well as the second piece is around the automated speed enforcement. Next steps really are to bring forward a memorandum of understanding to council through consultation with our friends at the Town of Newmarket, as well as there will be, assuming we proceed or assuming council gives the final direction through the MOU to proceed, there will be some changes that are required through our traffic and parking bylaw as it relates to the 3 community safety zones. And I think kind of in a nutshell, that wraps it up. But again, I'll ask our Director of Public Works if I've missed anything. And it looks like that covers everything, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Councilor, we're moving on to number 20 is our confirmation bylaw. We have a motion that the confirmation bylaw 2024-18 be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. I'm going to look for a mover. Councilor Marchand, second by Councilor Drash. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. And we're going to look for adjournment at 7:52 p.m. Moved by Councilor Roux, second by Deputy Mayor LaRose. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Council, you ready to move into committee of the whole? Do we need to take a pause? Anyone need water, bio breaks? Welcome, everyone. We're going to welcome you to our Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, April the 10th, 2024. I'm going to call our meeting to order at 7:53 p.m. Number 2 is our approval of the agenda. I have a motion that the Committee of the Whole agenda for April the 10th, 2024 be approved as presented. Moved by Councilor Waters, seconded by Deputy Mayor LaRose. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Number 3 is our declaration of pecuniary interest. Any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, if you present one at the time, sorry, Councilor Drash.
I fell asleep at the switch there. I do have a pecuniary interest as it relates to item 9, section D in the finance and corporate services. It's item A3, and it is regarding user fees. So, and I have a conflict because of my employment as Director of Recreation for the Township of Tiny and my involvement in the matter in that capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Drash. That's been noted. We'll make sure we restate that at the time. And if any other members represent one declaration at the time, please do let us know. Moving on, number 4 is presentations and delegations for all sections. We have a presentation this evening, Council, regarding our wastewater treatment division annual report for 2023. And I'm going to look to our director, Brian Murray.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of Council, it's my pleasure this evening to present our wastewater division's 2023 annual report. I will presenting the presentation tonight in tandem with our Chief Wastewater Operator, Mark Charlebois, who's in the audience tonight. And I'll ask actually Mark to come up here. As a part of the annual report that we're presenting this evening, we'll do the highlights of the report as part of the presentation this evening. We do have the formal report as part of the consent agenda under the Transportation Environmental Services section that has all of the details associated with the operations of the wastewater division in 2023. To start off, the annual reports are required under our certificate of approval for both the wastewater plants at Fox and Main Street locations. So as part of the C of A, we are required to report upon the operations of both plants and to exhibit our compliance with those C of A requirements. And as part of that, we provide an update or a report to council as well as part of that. Next slide. Just as a high-level summary, this is just an overview of our operations last year at both plants. So overall, both plants operated very well. There was only one monthly exceedance at Fox Street due to total suspended solids. Our effluent loadings for both plants were well within our regulatory requirements and our Severn Sound Environmental Association objectives. So overall, the plants performed very well. The flows at both plants were very similar to last year, only very small increases to the flows at both plants. So we had a 3.9% increase at the Main Street plant and a 5.5% increase at the Fox Street plant. And both plants are operating within their rated capacity, with Main Street operating at approximately 59% of its rated capacity and Fox Street operating at about 2/3 of its rated capacity. So overall, the combined flows for the year 2023 increased about 4.3%. And another good news item to pass on to council, we observed no overflows at both plants. So both plants didn't have any tertiary or raw sewage bypass occurrences. We did report 6 spill occurrences within the collection system that were observed at the Main Street sewage treatment plant. And these were related to fuel spills that were discharged into the collection system and were received at the Main Street sewage treatment plant. We're required under our C of A requirements to report these to the ministry, and all 6 occurrences were reported. Whenever these spill occurrences occur, they're reported to the Spills Action Center of the Ministry of the Environment, and we're also reported to the Roads Division operators for follow-up and investigation. And again, all provincial and federal regulatory reporting requirements were submitted. Next slide, please. Another interesting slide which shows our bypass occurrences over the last. The one graph on the right actually shows it dating back to 1974. And as you can see from the bar graph, we've seen dramatic reductions in the amount of sewage bypass time that we've seen at the sewage treatment plants. The chart on the left dates back to 2010, which shows the bypass in terms of a volumetric measurement. And you can see since 2016, 2018, when we commissioned our wastewater treatment plant at Main Street and underwent upgrades there, we've seen a dramatic decline in the number of overflows we've seen there. And that's thanks in large part to the stormwater equalization storage tank, which is essentially a large storage facility that we have at the Main Street sewage treatment plant that allows us to store rainwater during large rain events and then allow it to slowly be discharge through the facility once the rain event has subsided. So that's led to a dramatic increase or reduction in the amount of overflows that we're seeing. Next slide, please. And again, as stated earlier, we did have 6 spill occurrences that were reported this year, mostly related to petroleum discharges, so fuel within the discharge or the distribution system. They are very intermittent, so there might be one month and then one the next, which leads us to believe that these are one-time occurrences within the distribution system, which in many ways is a good thing, but also makes it very hard to pinpoint. Next slide, please. For the flow monitoring, just getting into a little bit more detail at our 2 sewage treatment plants, you'll see the Main Street handles the bulk of our sewage collection and treatment, servicing about 75% of the wastewater that we collect and treat. And the Fox Street sewage treatment plant, the smaller of the 2 treatment plants, handles the other 25%. So the Main Street sewage treatment plant would collect a majority of the residential, industrial, and commercial flows that we have in town, whereas the Fox Street sewage treatment plant handles the collection from the Central North Correctional Facility and the residential areas in the north part of town. And the numbers you can see on the chart on the screen right now, we have a little over 3,100 cubic meters a day average daily flow at the Main Street plant, which we've seen some significant reductions as part of our sanitary sewer infrastructure renewal work that we've done over the last 10 years. And most notably the Main Street reconstruction, which saw some very drastic reductions in the amount of infiltration, namely groundwater infiltration that's being received at the plant. So the flows that we're seeing at the Main Street plant right now are actually indicative of what we saw 40 years ago in the 80s. So that's the flows. So we've seen a dramatic reduction in that. The Fox Street is actually on the flip side of that. We're actually seeing increased flows there, which is related to infiltration. So we're actually turning our eyes to doing some sewer rehab and rehabilitation work to tighten up those pipes. Next slide, please. For this part of the presentation, I'll switch it over to Mark Charlebois, our Chief Wastewater Operator. Mark.
So the biosolids, they're hauled by Region of Huronia Environmental Services. Excuse me. They look after the field management, including the soil sampling, testing, and they look after acquiring the ASSM plans and non-agricultural source materials with the farmers. Losing my voice here, sorry. All biosolid samples of sludge were well within provincial regulations for metals. And the Main Street, since the expansion, produces a Class A biosolids now. One of the best classifications out there, probably the best in this whole area. Next slide, please. So biosolids volumes, haulage and cost. The first graph on the left there shows reduction in haulage, I guess, over the years. So you can see the line between the pre-expansion and post-expansion. And I just identified it in truckloads just so you get a better visual. So we went from about 260 truckloads a year haulage down to 142 truckloads a year. That's about a 45% reduction. And that's huge. And the graph on the left shows the reduction in cost. We went from almost 250,000, well, over 250,000 in 14 there, down to about 70,000 the last few years per year. So that's a huge reduction in cost as well. Part of that too is we no longer rent the storage lagoon. That contract ended in 2016 when we had our expansion and we had our own on-site storage instead. So we saved probably $85,000 in rental fees alone. So yeah, $70,000, that's pretty good. Next slide. Hydro cost, pre-expansion, around 200,000 a year. Post-expansion with all the new equipment that went in, new processes, up over $500,000 a year. And that's combined costs with both plants. And through a little optimization work that we did from around 2018, we started shutting one of our ATADs off. And we saved a lot of money there, over $100,000 a year, I believe, just shutting that off. Because the flows are so low, we haven't quite had enough food to feed two, hardly enough to feed one ATAD, actually. But anyway, we shut one off and we saved quite a bit of money. So we're continuously optimizing the plant. Next slide. Maintenance calibrations, regular preventative corrective maintenance and calibrations are conducted on all plant equipment, instrumentation. We use a MainBoss computerized program that Public Works uses. We put out about 1,327 preventative work orders last year. A few of them got carried over. We were short-staffed for a few months there, but we're just getting caught up now. Critical alarms are tested regularly, bypass alarms, high-level sensors, and safety-related alarms. And every year we have safety inspections done on our lifting equipment and confined space equipment, gas detectors. We also have gas detection in some of the Class 1, Div 1 rated buildings, explosion-proof buildings. So we get those calibrated every year as well at the Main Street plant. Next one, please. Just showing some pictures of some of the new equipment that went in with the last expansion. Top left is the pump gallery downstairs in the biosolids building. There's a lot of pumps down there to maintain now. Top middle picture is a new polymer room. And we use polymer in that bottom picture there. It shows a drum thickener, a rotary drum thickener. We use polymer to feed the drum thickener with sludge, and we can thereby thicken it upwards of 8%. So we can cut our volumes pretty good, and that's where the volumes get cut, the biosolids. All the water goes recycled back through the plant. So the picture on the right shows the new grit removal system. It's called a UTEC teacup with a grit snail. All the grit gets dumped into bins, and then we haul it away to landfill. Next slide, please. Sewage pump stations, they're maintained and operating properly. No overflows to report. I think this year too, you submitted a report, a separate report for the pump stations, because they actually fall under the collection system. So for this year, there'll be a separate report for the whole collection system, including pump stations. That's our 5 stations that we have: Jennings Drive, Robert Street West, Spec Boulevard, Navy Lane, Belil Pump Station. And there they are. You can probably see them across town. Robert Street West is the oldest one, 1977. The newest one is Navy Lane. That was totally rebuilt and back in 2018. And then we have the Beck Boulevard Station, Belil Pump Station back in 2006, and Jennings Pump Station, 1989. And the wastewater guys took over the pump stations from Public Works, I guess, the roads guys, about 12, 15 years ago. And this is our wastewater team, Pat Leclerc. He's got about 32 years experience. Dave Murray has about 14 years experience. Myself is almost 31 years. And then we have Laura Reimer, class 3. She's been here for 4 years. So I think that's it. Excellent. I don't know if there's any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Brian. Council, comments or questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Just one comment, guys. It's really important for some of us that have been here for a while, investing all that money in the infrastructure to get rid of all the extraneous water going in, to see that the flows are going way down. What it allows us to do is, when the town goes for new development, you know, we can recall back a few years ago that, you know, was there enough capacity to have X amount of houses brought on? Running at 59% should serve us well into the future for any future development. And obviously it's a lot cleaner going out.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Marchand.
Thank you for the presentation. I think one of the things that's important, and just to echo what Deputy LaRose said, was the fact that you highlighted the cost savings that we've been able to optimize in the new plant, and how we're always looking for efficiencies. I think that's really important. And those are some pretty significant drops in overhead and operating costs. So that's great to see. So thank you for the report.
Council, any other comments or questions? I want to thank you, Brian. I want to thank you, Mark, for your work. I think it's tremendous. I think we have lots to celebrate. I want to echo off what the Deputy Mayor said. I think we have a lot of gratitude and thanks to staff, as well as previous councils that invested the infrastructure and the time and the money to make these things happen so that we can grow. There are municipalities right now that at one time wanted to do a sewage treatment plant like we did. Might have costed 2, 3, 4, 5 million. And today they're looking at price tags of 40, 50 and plus, and they can't do it. So your point's well heard that now we're set up well for growth. And thanks for your excellence in the work that you do. Question, and maybe to you, Brian. Sometimes I hear from people in the community about what they're saying is an overflow. Like there's a bad odor come from the sewage treatment, specifically walking around Rotary Trail. And they'll ask me, and I'm like, I don't know, there's too much technology and understanding for me. But how do people bring that forward? And when do you want to know about it? And can you kind of tell us, like, what is that cause? What is that cause of that smell when they're walking by the trail at certain times?
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for the question. I would suggest that if any member of council is seeing or receiving that information from residents, to ask them to report it as they would any other complaint, like for a pothole or a sign, for example, to report it to the town office or the Public Works office, and we would report on it and investigate immediately. That's the kind of information that Mark wants to hear right away, so that they can do investigations. And if there are any the fugitive odors that are happening as part of which do happen from time to time, whether they're pumping out a storage tank. There is odors in terms of those processes, but it would definitely be handled similar to any other complaint that you would phone the town office or the Public Works office, and the staff would take that complaint and direct it to the appropriate staff for action.
Thank you so much. Council, further comments, questions? Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here tonight and presenting that. Thank you. Moving on, councils, number 5 is our council information package. Before we read the motion, anybody have anything you want to pull for further comment or discussion on the CIP? Councillor Marchand.
There's letters from both CIP packages from March 20th and from April the 3rd with regards to speed on Belzile Drive since opening Thompson Road. I'd like to have those pulled just for comments.
Floor is yours.
I think it's important that anytime residents do take the opportunity to provide written concerns to council, that we address them. And certainly, I'm concerned that we've already received 2 letters formally when we've just opened that particular section of the roadway. There was, even the day we cut the ribbon, there was some concerns that hopefully people weren't going to use Belzile, as a shortcut, and that speeding was going to be a concern. And we've already started to see that this is possibly an area that we need to look look at. So this may be something that comes back as a referral item and maybe added to some of our traffic calming measures from that perspective, but just wanted to comment on those two correspondence.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. COLs, to follow up with Councillor Marchand brought up, is there any communication that would follow through to the member resident about these inquiries?
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, I just stepped out there for a second, but just quick consultation with the clerk, and there will be responses provided to the residents that they've been received and provided to council through the CIP process. Thank you.
Thank you, COLs. Councillor Marchand, so I think the follow-up communication the CO brought up, and then you can bring some through as a referral. Is that okay? Okay. Any members of council, any further things you want to discuss from the CIP? Okay. So we have a motion that the council information package have been given due consideration be received for information for March 20th, 2024 and April 3rd, 2024. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Waters, second. Councillor Marchand, call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Moving on to 6A is our Transportation Environmental Services section. I'm going to turn the chair to Councillor Marchand.
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening for Transportation Environmental Services on the consent agenda, there are two items for being brought forward. The recommended action is that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. The first one is the memo from the Director of Public Works regarding the electric vehicle EV charging station funding. And the second is the Wastewater Treatment Division Annual Report 2023. Can I get a mover? Councillor Waters, second. Councillor DeRush. Any comments or questions with regards to the two consent agenda items? Deputy LaRose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one about the EV charging stations. Is this going to be something that the town gets into? Are we going to be providing them all over town on a regular basis? Or, you know, I'm just wondering, I know we put one in out here a number of years ago. I don't think it makes us any dollars when you look at the startup cost at 30,000 each, and I know they're applying for the money, but if we're going to have them in town, let's have them at appropriate places, or we're not going to be in the business of charging. So I'd just like to look at it just like we are with a cell tower. You're going to have, let's have some rules about where and why, as opposed to just somebody coming in and cherry picking a few spots.
Sorry, was there a question there, or direction back to staff around a report, or you're inquiring that perhaps Director Murray can answer where they might be going?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to Deputy LaRose. Yes, the report in front of council is just to make council aware that we have applied for funding, but the installation of chargers, those types of things would come forward to council for consideration at a future council date. So nothing is set in stone. It was just to make council aware that we have applied for the funding, and this partnership with Lakeland Solutions is a total turnkey solution. So we would be total hands off, and they would be responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep of these charging stations, and to expand upon our existing charging stations that we have for public high profile parking locations in town.
Anything else? Great. Thank you, Brian. Any other questions or comments with regards to those reports? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that motion's carried. Next item, we'll be moving to matters for consideration. We have 3 items tonight. The first one is the municipal snow storage location draft final MCAA project file report. RDS 2024-06, the recommendation that council approve option 1, 205 Fuller Avenue site, outlining with the project file report as the preferred option for the municipal snow storage location and class 2 soil management site. Can I get a mover? Deputy LaRose, second. Councillor Waters. Director Murray, can I ask you to go through the report that's presented tonight?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report in front of council is the culmination of the Class EA process that staff underwent to select a town-owned storage, snow storage site and Class 2 storage or soil storage facility. Right now, we do lease a portion of property from the Morden sand and gravel pit off of Fuller Avenue at 905 Fuller Avenue. The study reviewed a number of possible or potential locations within the municipality. And among other things, each site was located and evaluated based on a certain criteria, namely distance from snow storage and snow removal locations. The Main Street and Robert Street corridor is our main snow removal corridor. So location from the storage site to the removal location was a key factor. Environmental, financial, and social and societal factors were also factored into the selection of the site. At the culmination or the conclusion of the study, we did select our current site, which is the snow storage facility at 905 Fuller Avenue, which is the Morden site, as the preferred alternative.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to Brian. Brian, then basically would we be looking for a property severance and the purchase of the land?
Thank you, through Madam Chair, to Councillor Leroux. Yes, right now we currently lease the lands from Morden Sand and Gravel, and we'd be looking to purchase a portion or sever a portion of that land that we're currently using as a municipally owned site.
And Brian, just for clarity, that is future based on how the report is completed. It's not being proposed at this point.
That is correct. Yes.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The next matter for consideration is St. Andrews Village Development Pre-Servicing Agreement Subdivision Bond, ENG-2024-05. It's recommended that the use of a subdivision bond as security for the St. Andrews Village Subdivision Agreement is approved. Can I get someone to move that? Councillor Waters, second. Councillor Leroux. In front of you is the package prepared by staff. The provision of the report is asking that the subdivision bond be used for security. And as the report clearly outlines, we're seeing this more and more as means of security. It has been vetted through our legal and insurance in terms of the ability to use this as securities. This motion is being asked that we are looking for approval at this point. Director Murray, would we add anything else from this perspective on the report?
I have nothing further to add, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions by council with regards to the report in front of you? Councillor Vadabancourt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was an interesting report to read, and I was happy to see that the process, if the municipality needs to draw on the bond, is very similar to the process that the municipality would follow with a letter of credit. So there wouldn't be an issue, I'm understanding from reading the report, if we had to do that. So I was pleased to see that, and I think that from an expense side, for many years now, as I understand it, developers have to put up the equivalent funds in a bank account in order to get the letter of credit, where the bond works a little bit differently. So I think that it's a more effective and efficient way of securing the work that's to be done. So my compliments to yourself and your team. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next matter for consideration is Keefe Street Development Development Agreement Subdivision Bond, Engineering ENG 2024-06, that the use of a subdivision bond as security for the Keefe Street Development Agreement is approved. Can I get a mover? Deputy LaRose, seconder, Councillor Waters. The report before you is similar to the previous report that was provided in terms of the bond that is being put up for this particular subdivision development. Any additional questions by members of council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Referral to upcoming agenda items to staff that the Transportation Environmental Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agenda and staff. We have the traffic calming measure on roads and sidewalks with priority of streets with no sidewalks. We're looking to have that come back to us in first quarter of this year. So we're getting close to the end of this first quarter. Oh, yes.
Council actually adopted that this night, so we could remove that item.
But this one was specifically for streets with no sidewalks. So the roads that we did identify as community happen to cover Fox Street, but the proposal only is looking at one potential camera. So I don't know if this is something that needs to come off or can come off yet. Brian, perhaps?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The automated speed enforcement report that His Worship referred to was to address that referral item. So I believe it could come off, but I would leave that to the will of council.
Okay, I don't know that I think once the measure comes back in terms of the report with the MOU, when we look at where we're going to place that camera, then I'm fine to have it come off. But I think it may be something that we might just want to consider. Anyone looking to add any? Oh, I didn't call for. I don't have to do a motion, do I, or approval? There's nothing yet to approve. Off next time when I'm asking all the questions. Any members of council looking to add anything for referral items? Okay, I'm looking over to see if there was anybody. Actually, based on the letters that were provided through the CIP from residents, I would like to, whether maybe it's the same wording, looking at calming measures or looking at potential speed enforcement or support specifically for Belle Drive through the new opening through Thompson Road. That was not really well worded. I'm hoping that Madam Clerk, you can assist me with that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just use the similar wording to what's already there, specifically identifying Belle Drive and Thompson Road.
Thank you. Any other items? So, can I get I need a motion to support that. Can I get someone to move that? Councillor Waters, seconder. Councillor DeRush, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Question period from the media or public. Any questions with regards to this section at this time? Oh. I thought we removed it though. Okay, that the Environmental Services section endorsed the following addition and existing referral items to the upcoming agenda. And can I get a mover? Deputy LaRose, seconder Mayor Rawson, all those in favor? That motion's carried. Thank you. Any questions from the media or public with regards to this section? Seeing none, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. Moving on to 7, Section B, Recreation Community Services, Councillor Waters.
Thank you. Recreation Community Services tonight has 5 consent items. And the motion reads that the following consent agenda items having been given due consideration be received for information. Number 1 being the Museum and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes from February 8th, 2024. Number 2 is the Penetanguishene Public Library meeting minutes from February 26th, 2024. The third one was the Trails Committee meeting minutes from September 27th, 2023 and December 19th, 2023. And there was a memo from the Director of Recreation regarding participation grant for newcomer programmer from April 10th, 2024. And the final item was a memo from the Director of Recreation and Community Services regarding the wharf structural update from April 10th, 24. Would anybody like to pull any of these items? Then I guess we looking for a mover to receive them. And that would be our Deputy Mayor and Councillor Marchand. And all in favor? And that carries. Next, we have our matters for consideration. Tonight, there's only one. And it's the camera agreement with the Kings RCS-2024-03 with the recommended action that the agreement between the Corporation of the Town of Penetanguishene and the Penetanguishene Junior C Kings for camera use in the Penetanguishene Memorial Community Center be approved as outlined in the attachment number 1 to this report, and that the CAO and the Director of Recreation and Community Services are hereby authorized to make minor alterations to the agreement that does not substantially change its content. And finally, that the clerk bring forward the necessary bylaw for the council approval. RCS 2024-03 being a camera agreement with the Kings, and RCS-2024-03 attachment number 1, which is the King's camera agreement draft. Any questions on those? Councillor Vadabonker?
Not a question, just a comment. I just want it noted that I sit on the board of directors for the Penetanguishene Kings Junior C Hockey Club, and I don't perceive this to be in a conflict situation, as I don't gain anything from it, but I just want it noted that I do sit on the board.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Councillor Marchand?
Thank you. I just wondered, do we have to post? I know when we live stream our council meetings, we make sure that it's known that they're being live streamed. Will there be signs requirements? And through the Junior C, their association provincially, is there anything that is signed for privacy and anything like that? And just ensuring that we're covered.
I believe that's the case, but I guess we'll ask our director to elaborate for you.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Marchand. There are requirements in the agreement for the Kings to provide appropriate signage to meet all those legislative requirements. They don't film the stands, but just the ice proper, and the players in the league are required to sign and notice as well that they are being live streamed.
Thank you. And I guess we need a I guess we'll have our mayor give us a little talk.
I love this report. I think it's great. Just from I'll ask the Madam Clerk possibly, from a clarity standpoint, the report gave 3 options: option A, option B, option C. I know the recommended action is that we move forward with the agreement with the Kings. I support that. I think it's great. I just want to make sure the motion is clear. Do we need to add in option A, or is it good as written?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll look to the Director of Recreation, because I don't, I'm not sure if there is further clarification that's required within the report. I see the attachment 1 is referenced. I suspect attachment 1 is related to a specific option, but I'd look for clarification from the director.
Thank you. Option A is the agreement with the Kings. Whether we need clarification to assume that option, I think the motion is clear that we're approving the agreement, which is option A.
Okay, and I guess to conclude this item, to keep it nice and neat, I guess we need a mover and a seconder, kind of amidst that part. So be Councillor Marchand and our mayor for a seconder. And I guess we'll call for a vote. All in favor? And it passes. And that leaves us with our referrals to upcoming agenda. And tonight we have one item, same item that's been on there for a while. And the motion reads that the Recreation and Community Services section endorse the following additions and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. The item being options for an accessibility mat at municipal beaches, provide options and costs for providing an accessible mat on municipal beaches. And do I need a mover? And could I have a mover for that? Councillor Drush, second. Councillor Vadebonkar. And all in favor? And that one passes as well. And our final item would be if we have any questions from the media and public. We don't, so I'll pass it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Moving on to 8, Section Z, Planning Community Development Services section. I can turn the chair to Councillor Vadebonkar.
Thank you, Worship. On our agenda tonight, we have 6 consent items. We have the Economic Development Advisory Committee meeting minutes of January 8th and February 5th. We have the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes from January 22nd. We have a memo from the Director of Planning and Community Development pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment file number ZA3-2024, 1321 Sandy Bay Road. Another memo from the Director of Planning and Community Development dealing with the first quarter 2024 planning update. Another memo from the Director of Planning and Community Development, an update on the 2024 capital projects. And finally, we have the monthly activity report from Municipal Law Enforcement Department for March 2024. Does anybody have a comment or wish to pull any of those consent items? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion that the following consent agenda items having been given due consideration be received for information. And I've already laid out what those are. May I have a mover, please? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Waters. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. On our agenda, we have one matter for consideration, and it's the 2023 Heritage Tax rebates. And this is an annual item that we deal with. And the recommended action is that the following Heritage Tax rebates for the 2023 tax year be approved. The W.R. Benson home at 69 Point Street in the amount of $1,682.30. The J.T. Payette House at 33 Robert Street West at $2,168.16. And the A.A. Thompson House at 14 Water Street capped at $2,434.39. Any questions on any of those items? As I said, it's an annual thing that we do and application based, and it's reviewed. And okay, seeing none, then may I have a mover, please? Thank you. Councillor Marchand, seconder. Councillor Waters. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. We have 3 referral items. I'll read the motion. I'll see if there's any new items. The Planning and Community Development Services section endorsed the following additional existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. We have the ATV ORV pilot project. That was requested by Mayor Rawson, and that's underway still. We have the cell tower public notification procedure. We heard a little bit about that a little earlier. Public notice protocols and procedures for proposed telecommunication towers. Also, a request from Mayor Rawson, and the HCF Affordable Housing Project. Provide options to assist and support the HCF for affordable housing project, also brought forward by Mayor Rawson. Any other or new referral items that anybody wants to bring? Mayor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe we can remove the ATV one. Staff brought that forward, council brought that forward tonight and adopt that. Whether or not we bring the bylaw forward and the rest, there's still a piece to do, but staff have done their work. I think we can remove that one. I'll move that.
Okay, so Mayor Rawson is moving that the ATV ORV pilot project be removed. I was thinking that it should stay on for the reasons that it was still, the pilot was going to be undertaken and then evaluated and whatnot, so it could go either way. So Mayor Rawson is moving that it come off. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Marchand. Okay, we have a mover and seconder comment.
Mr. Chair, I would question the cell tower public notification is if we're keeping it on, then the Q124 is passed. So do we change the Q or do we take it off?
Councillor Roux, perhaps we can just vote on that motion first, and then I can ask the question on that. Okay, I've got it moved in second. I'll call for the vote on the removal of the ATV ORV pilot project. I know the CAO has an answer to Councillor Roux's question. So all those in favor of removing the ATV ORV pilot project from our list? Carried. Thank you. And Mr. CAO, question response to Councillor Roux dealing with the cell tower public notification procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From staff's perspective, the report was presented at the last meeting on the cell tower notification process. We have CRNS or SRINs that we're hoping to have come present next month, which was part of the last staff report. So that's where that matter lies. From staff's perspective, we're indifferent whether it gets removed or stays on, but there is still work to be done on that protocol procedure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. CAO. Any further comments or additions to the referrals? Seeing none, then I'll call for a mover. I'll read the motion again, that the Planning and Community Development Services section endorse the following existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff as amended. Anything further? May I have a mover? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Marchand, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Any questions from the media and the public? Yes, we have a member of the public who would like to. Could you go to, excuse me, could you just go to the podium, and I know you've been there before, just identify yourself again and for the record. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Connie Stewart. I was just wondering if any members of the public will be able to take part in the developing the protocols and procedures for the telecommunications tower. We don't really know how that works, and one of my cohorts, she couldn't come tonight, and I know she's very interested in being a part of that process.
Well, we've invited that agency to come to a future meeting, and I'm hoping that through that presentation and question and answer, we'll understand a little bit clearer in terms of how that can go about. Madam Director, did you have any comments that you wanted to share with respect to that at this point?
Thank you very much through you, Councillor Radabancourt. So yes, you're correct that the CRIN service provider would be coming to do a presentation so that council could consider their services. And that service does have a protocol that is standard for all municipalities across Ontario. So that's available online if anybody want to see what they do through their service. And then depending on the direction of what council wants to do, either pursue CRINs or go with our own internal notice requirement. There was a draft on the March 13th agenda that had a draft of what that internal notice policy could look like. And if that's the route council wishes to go, I believe there was some planned consultation on what that would contain. And so the public would for sure have an opportunity to participate in that.
Thank you, Madam Director. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Any other questions from the media and the public? Seeing none, Your Worship, I'll turn the meeting back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Vedabunker. Moving on to 9, Section D, Finance and Corporate Services section. I'm going to keep the chair for a moment. Councillor DeRush has declared a conflict on 9A3 on our consent agenda. I'll pull that one separate. We'll debate that separate, and then I'll pass the chair back to Councillor DeRush. So Council 9A, number 3 is a memo from the CEO my mistake. 3 is memo from the CEO regarding non-resident user fees update in our consent. So we'll pull that separate for a separate discussion. Councillor DeRush has declared a conflict of interest on this item, so she won't participate in this. So we'll pull this as a separate item. I'm going to look for a mover on this item, please. Councillor Vedabunker, seconded by Councillor. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. And Madam Clerk, I know you've noted, but for the record, Councillor DeRush did not participate in the discussion or the vote on that. Councillor Rush, I'm going to pass the chair back to you on the remaining items and for this section.
Thank you very much. So we have 3 remaining items on the consent agenda. The first is the allocation of municipal modernization funds update, which is Finance Report 2024-04. The second item is the memo from the CAO regarding insurance pooling feasibility study. And the last is a memo from the Director of Human Resources, recompensation review update. Does anyone have any questions or comments on any of these 3 items? Yes, Deputy Mayor LaRose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a little comment about the insurance pooling feasibility study. The mayor and I were advised at county by the Treasury Department down there saying how this could affect everyone, whether we want to be in the program, out of the program. I believe they're going to be coming forth with a 5-year protocol. If you're in for 5 years to make it all run right. So I know staff had started it way back when. So as we get more information, I just wanted to update you that that's kind of the path that we're looking at following for this.
Thank you for those comments. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion reads that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Leroux, seconded by Councillor Marchand. We'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. We will now go down to matters of consideration. And the first matter is the 2023 capital carry forwards and 2023 draft capital surplus, and it is or slash deficit. And it is the Finance Report 2024-07. And the recommended action is that the amended 2024 capital budget, including the 2023 capital carry forwards, be approved, and that water rates of $4,733, library development charges of $25,133, and the 2023 operating surplus or contingency reserve of $108,930 be approved to balance the funding required for the 2023 capital program. And can I get a mover and a seconder to get this on the floor? Moved by Deputy Mayor LaRose, seconded by Councillor Marchand. Any comments or questions regarding this item? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? And the motion is carried. The second item is the Community Grants Review, and it is Finance Report 2024-06. The recommended action is that the referral item report be received for information and discussion, and that the financial contributions to community organizations policy number 014 be repealed. And finally, that all financial requests received outside of the annual budget process be referred to the next budget process, and staff is directed to update council through the council information package. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Mayor Rawson, seconded by Councillor Waters. Any comments or questions regarding this item? Yes, Councillor Marchand.
Thank you for this report. I'll be honest, I'm feeling a little bit confused by the report. I've read it a couple times. I understand, and the report was thorough, so I'm just trying to understand if we're going to repeal this, as we receive asks from the community for contributions, we would then look at them in our council package, and if we choose to pull them and address them, we will, but if we don't, we're just going to ignore them. That's my understanding of this. I will not be supporting this motion and this report. There are a number of worthy organizations within our community. And, you know, I know that what we've put aside on an annualized basis has varied, but consistently we're talking $10,000 providing to organizations that are specifically around capital expenditures. And this is not contributing to their general operating costs and paying people or in those types of things. These are capital requests. And there is a number of worthy organizations that received funding last year. And I think it's really important that we support those initiatives. And the fact that this is a capital grant and that there is a form and there's an application deadline, there's an opportunity to go through them. I think it's a very fair process. And we will receive, you know, asks on a regular basis, but I really do appreciate that they come in at one particular time and they're considered in our budget process. And again, these are for capital funds. And so I will not be supporting this motion that we're no longer going to provide any kind of funding out to community, to organizations that could really use the support, that they are helping our citizens and our residents of Penetanguishene. So maybe I answered in my own question as I stated this, but for clarity, we would repeal and we would no longer be providing anything other than perhaps if we happen to get an ask and it's the charity that we like the most and they get funds that year. I guess that's really is my question.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to maybe state what I think my understanding is, and then we'll ask Director Robillard to maybe elaborate on that. But my understanding is that we would still be considering requests from community groups for funding, but that we would not be, it would not be through a policy. It would be on a one-by-one basis. And maybe you can elaborate on that, Director Robillard.
Absolutely. Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Marchand. When I said that, we do get funding requests throughout the year, regardless of whether they are capital, operating. We present them to council regardless of whether they fall within the capital program guidelines. And in terms of repealing this particular policy, we would continue to receive financial requests. We would advise anybody asking for funding that that we're only looking at them through the annual budget process. So if we get them through the year, there's no funding. There's no funding for them until we sit down to work on our budget for the next year. We could advise council that we've received the financial ask and that it is being referred to the annual budget process. If for whatever reason council wishes to pull it on the CIP, to discuss it, acknowledge it, or come up with some sort of funding mechanism to fund it because maybe it's urgent or it needs more of a timely response to it, that's an option. But I guess the reason that the recommendation is to repeal it is because regardless of the policy, we present all financial requests to council anyways. And last year, for example, we had $25,000 And there was, I can't remember the number of applications that came in, but there might have been half a dozen or more that totaled about $87,000 in requests. So it's gone a little bit beyond the scope of what the original intent of that policy was. And I certainly don't recommend increasing the capital loan program from the current level to, let's say, $87,000 in funding requests. So that's just the reasoning behind it. But obviously, there are other options on the table for council to consider.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Marshall? Okay. Any other comments or questions for this? I would like to maybe make one comment, is that with the policy in place, I understand that I think we've drifted over the years. And so the policy really isn't true to our selection. I don't know. I have a feeling that that's why maybe we want to repeal, because we're not really following that policy. And so it's not at the whim of council, but it's at our decision. And I think that it's made it complicated for staff, because I think there's a lot of work that goes into vetting these applications. My only concern is that when these requests do come in, as a council, we won't have a baseline. Everybody will be in the pot. And so we won't have any rules to follow and to really look at these applications. So I don't know that everybody will be on the same footing. We're going to have organizations that may not have complete financials. We'll have organizations that may have full-time people who can write to ask for money, and they're going to have stellar applications. And so my feeling is that we should maybe go back to that policy and follow it. Follow that policy so that maybe some of the groups that we have been providing funding to would be disqualified, because they would not fall, because I think the policy is a good one. So that's kind of my take on that. I just feel that we're going to lose our guidelines, and so it'll just be kind of pretty open-ended. So those are my comments. Yes, Mayor Rawson.
Thank you. I'll thank Carrie for the report. I know this is probably tough to craft and tough to come up with a recommended action. I fully support it. I think it's great. If I look at the amount of money, the $168,000 that's been distributed since 2012, I would say the lion's share has gone to the hospital. And I think this council did a good thing last budget time where we said, let's let the county do that through the county's Hospital Alliance program. I know it's difficult for us to have that conversation, but we need to have a more concerted effort on how we fund the hospital, and that needs to be a county coordinated response. During the budget, we did have, during our public consultation, we did have a member of the public speak to funding community type programs. And is that right or not? We have organizations that were responsible to fund today, such as the Rony Airport that you identified, Carrie, in the report, that have tremendous needs and wants. We're having conversations right now about non-resident user fees to use our infrastructure, and that our partners aren't paying what they're supposed to pay. There's huge pressures and demands on what we ought to provide today. I think the amount that extra work and burden we're putting on staff to do this, I don't think it's really in our purview. So I think this is a great report. I want to thank you, Carrie, for it, and I hope we adopt this.
Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Rittemacher.
Thank you. In the past and in different municipalities that I've been associated with, I've gone through this process a couple of times in terms of looking at a grant policy, and it's always difficult. We had one, as I recall, in the town of Penetanguishene many years ago, where we alwaalways what was allocated, and council said, no, we're going to stop doing that. And one of the concerns I had is with respect to council's involvement in the review of the allocation of the grants. the practice has been that it's basically been staff that does the evaluation and then they present it to us in a public forum. And we really haven't had a chance as a council to really kind of vet them other than when they're here. And I think there are opportunities to do that ahead of time, to do a vetting ahead of time, and to allocate dollars based on what we feel as members of council in terms of what are worthy causes. I like the idea of one intake, but I also like the idea of working within a set budget. Whatever that set budget is, that's all we have. They could have $87,000 worth of asks, but we only have 15,000 allocate. Well, that's all that's going to get allocated. But members of council can make that decision with respect to what gets allocated. I'm not sure we're doing that with this. I don't think we are. I think it's still the onus is on staff to do that. And my point is, I think there should be more involvement, members of council at the front end as opposed to just the back end. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Marchand.
In the report, there are various options presented. And can I ask that we consider another option that is in the report? Can I bring that forward as a motion?
Sure, you can. And then if you can get a seconder, then we'll. No, okay.
Sorry, Madam Chair. We do have a mover and a seconder for the motion that is on the table. I think if it was a friendly amendment, we could work with that. But I think if we're changing directions, we need to vote.
Okay. So if there's no other comments, we'll vote on the motion on the floor, which is to repeal the policy and to have all financial requests received outside of the annual budget process be referred to the next budget process, and staff is directed to update council through the council information package. We'll vote on that. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Next item is the Advisory Committee Work Plans 2024, which is Clerk's Report 2024-03. And you will notice that we have work plans from 4 of our committees of council, and they're very impressive, I've got to say. Do we have any questions or comments about any of these work plans? Seeing none, the recommended action is that the 2024 work plans for the advisory committees of council be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Leroux, seconded by Councillor Vademont-Cœur. We'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. I'd like to take this opportunity to these are all volunteers within our organization who sit on these committees and provide us with incredible resourcing and direction guidance. And I wanted to refer to what we're going to be celebrating next week, which is National Volunteer Week. And we celebrate that every year. And this year's theme is thank you for making every moment matter. And as you know, volunteers donate their time and energy expecting nothing in return. And we see that over and over again here in Penetanguishene. For their kindness and generosity, they deserve to know how grateful we are for their contributions to Penetanguishene. Volunteers are the backbone of our community. They deliver essential services and fill resource gaps. And when I think of that, I think of our soccer coaches and I think of our gardeners. Volunteers foster unity and mutual understanding among diverse community members. And when I think of that, I think of our Winterama volunteers and our seniors info day volunteers who really get involved in those in the delivery of those events. Volunteers act as catalysts for community development and change. And I thought immediately of our Friends of Youth who have that little shop and raise funds, and were able to provide $100,000 to our Martin Valley Park and to our pump track, which is unbelievable. And then the volunteers encourage active citizenship and community responsibility. And there, I think of our members of council who certainly show what citizenship looks like. Volunteers help address the needs of others and make a positive impact in Penetanguishene. And there I think of our friends of the museum who are phenomenal. And I think of I see the volunteers who flip burgers at our barbecue, senior barbecue in the fall. And again, you know, they do certainly have a big positive impact on our town. So volunteers truly are the heart of our community. And I think on behalf of all council, I really want to do a big shout out to them and thank them very much for all that they do. Thank you. Okay, our last item is the Penetanguishene Police Services Board meeting minutes. And these are the March 4th, 2024 minutes. And the recommended action is whereas the Penetanguishene Police Services Board was dissolved as of April 1st, 2024, and whereas the minutes of the final meeting of the board, which took place in March 4th, 2024, require approval. Now, therefore, the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene hereby approve the minutes of the final meeting of the Penetanguishene Police Services Board for March 4th, 2024. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor LaRue, seconded by Mayor Rawson. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Now we will talk about our referrals to upcoming agendas or to staff. And we have 4 items on the docket. We start off with our paper ballot consideration in 2026 municipal election, and that's slated in Q1 2025. We still have the staff position of grants writer, and this would be to provide options for a staff position to focus on grant opportunities and applications, and that is has been moved to Q2 to 2024. And then we have our non-resident fee review, and that's the review fees for non-residents related to all municipal services. And I know that we've received a report, but I don't believe we've had any kind of direction, so that will remain. Maybe we can suggest that go to we'll leave it at Q1 2024. And the last is the community grant program review the process and evaluation for community grant requests. And that will be dealt with probably at the next meeting, but it's slated for Q2 2024. Are there any other items that that you would like to add to this list? Seeing none, I will read the motion that the Finance and Corporate Services section endorse the following existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor LaRose, seconded by Councillor Marchand. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. And the next is question period for media and public. And I don't know if anyone has any questions regarding this section. Seeing none, I'll pass it back to you, Mayor Rawson.
Thank you, Councillor Duresh. We're going to look for a motion to adjourn at 9:08 p.m. Moved by Councillor Marchand.